Most of us often get confused about how to handle files in Python. We know that Python is a high-level programming language and is widely used in many fields like science, mathematics, web development, mobile application development, etc. In this tutorial, I am going to teach you how to handle text files using Python. In Python, a text file can be opened in R mode, R plus mode, W mode, W plus mode, A mode and a plus mode. You open an already existing text file using R mode like this. And then you can read the contents of the file. And then you see the following output. Python displays all the contents of the file. Now, let us see what will happen if we try to open a file that does not exist. When you try to open a text file that does not exist in your local storage, Python immediately throws an error called file not found error. So, in R mode, you can open a file that does exist. Now, the question is, can you write a new content into the file that you have just opened? Let us see whether we are able to do it or not. For that we are going to write the code like this. Oops! What we can see here is that the Python has thrown an error called unsupported operation. So, now we understand, when you open a text file in R mode, you can read the contents of the file. You can always open a file that does exist in R mode, but you cannot open the file that does not exist. Also, you cannot write anything to the file that you have opened in R mode. Now, we will look at how we can open a text file in R plus mode. You have to provide the full file path and set mode as R plus. Using print function we will display what Python has read from the file. Now, let us see what happens if we open a file that does not exist in R plus mode. Therefore, we are going to have the following code and let us see whether Python is able to read the file or not. Oops! Python shows a file not found error. This means, when you try to open a file in R plus mode, and if the file does not exist, Python throws the file not found error. Now, let us look at how we can write content in the file that we have opened in R plus mode. First of all, we are going to open a file in R plus mode that already has 4 lines of textual content. Then we will write a new line in that file. Here, you can see all the contents of the file. Now, we are going to write a new line to the file that we have just opened in R plus mode. For that we are going to use the write function, just as you see on the screen. And when you run the program, you see that the content that you have newly typed in is not printed. But when you open the file and check, you will be able to see the newly written line. Another important thing to notice here is that the newly written line has overwritten the pre-existing line. This indicates that when you open a file in R plus mode, basically, the cursor is present in the beginning of the first line, and when you write a new line, the write function replaces every character in the pre-existing line with that in the new line. The read function, basically, reads everything after the cursor. Therefore, if you want to print everything written in the file, you have to bring the cursor back to the beginning of the first line. This can be achieved by using the seek function and setting a numerical value of 0 to the function. The value indicates the character position. If seek function is set to 0, then the cursor will be brought to the first position. Now you can see all the content present in the file. Even though you can see the entire file content, the newly written content replaces the old content. How can you avoid this? I mean, how can you append your new line without losing the pre-existing content? As you can see here, the strategy is that first you open the file in R plus mode. Now, we know that the cursor is present at the very beginning of the content. We need to bring the cursor to the very end of the content. For that, we use the read function. Read function will bring the cursor to the very end of all the lines. Now write our new line. Now, Since you want to read all the contents of the file, you have to bring the cursor, again, back to the very beginning of the line. This can be achieved by using the seek function with argument set to 0, as you can see here. Now, when you look at the output, you can see that the old content was not replaced and the new line has been appended.